I was watching, of course, you know how TikTok is. It could have happened a month and a half ago, but Dooner was talking to some CEO of a parking something other parking club.
Truck parking club.
And, so it's talking about how the CEO rode with the driver. And I couldn't help but think, I think some of you drivers should ride with the CEO for a few days. Just saying, you know?
Oh yeah. I'm
Um,
a I'm a huge believer in like that cross pollination
yeah.
because when I was at the post office, they have this in their contract. They have something called 204B, where anybody can be whatever they want to be inside the post office temporarily. So as long as there's an open position, you can do whatever job you want. And then if you don't like it, no problem. They just move you back to whatever your craft was. And that is like such a great education because as a driver, you're always like thinking in your head, like, oh, these idiots in the office, they don't know anything. And then
Mhm.
you get in the office and you realize you don't know anything either.
Right. Yeah. It well, did like at Landstar. I mean, I stopped at an agent one time. I'm like, "Hey, how do you create a freight bill?" And she was like, "Oh, let me show you." I said, how do you create a load posting?" She's like, "Oh, let me show you." You know? And it was funny, and I'm like, "Hey, I want you to make the dumbest post you've ever seen, because I want to see if this phone line really melts down." And so she posted something like $10,000, and the phones instantly just melted down. And she's like, "Oh, I made a mistake," and deleted it real quick. Okay, so let's quit that. Make sure I'm opening up all my processor space. Holy crap. Well, folks, I guess we're live now, and so we're just getting started. But I literally just got off the phone with TA, giving them a special. But we'll talk about that when we get the show started. Lord have mercy. Never a dull moment. Let's see. Get this page up. Now, shut up, Richie. Now you can look at YouTube and there you'll be able to see the live chat. Um, and then of course TikTok because it's kind of two different comment sections going. So, um, where's
Okay. Yeah, I got TikTok here on my phone. I'll put up oh, look at me. A little thumbnail.
yeah, we got
Mute that so I don't hear myself in my ear.
yeah, you're not having anywhere near as many technical issues as Larry does.
I have done this for a living for the last 2 years.
Kevin is going to add us to their Audio Road um, app website feed. They're going to add our show to that. Let's see
Cool. Is
where
Kevin your co-host or Kevin Rutherford?
Kevin Rutherford.
Oh, no kidding. I love that guy.
Yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, they're adding us to his Audio Road, which is kind of like his own app for. Um, I'm trying to figure out how to retweet my own damn thing, and it's not working. Repost.
Let me make sure you are live on Twitter. Refresh that.
Okay.
There you are.
Yeah.
197.
Oh, it knows it's my birthday. I'm getting balloons. It's the Blue Ribbon Birthday Extravaganza.
You could probably change that. I left Freightwaves about 23 days ago.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Striking out
hell.
on my own. I'm freelance now.
Oh, I did not know that. Well, unfortunately,
Can't change it.
I can't change it.
Oh, well, we'll fix it in post.
Well, listen, yeah, we'll make all the announcements. We got 2 minutes to go, lunatics.
I mean,
Uh,
it's not wrong technically. I am from Freightwaves. I'm just not of Freightwaves.
okay, that right, because that's how people know you. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
What
most people in like the freight online community, that's where they know me from. So, I was actually in the
a
Twitter space last night, and a lot of guys were asking me like, "Why'd you leave? Why'd you leave?" And just kind of told them like, "I'm doing my own thing now."
okay. We got 1 minute to go, and I'll do the official start of the show. Boy, I really should have grabbed a water. None of my people are home yet, so
Reading the comments here. Ah, you got a pretty active chat.
yeah, they stay. Hit TikTok's hit and miss. Depends on how many people I pissed off in the previous week. If I have sufficiently kicked the hornet's nest, I'll show up in the FYP, and and so
I should have done that more this week because there's so much. It's such a target-rich environment with this New York City
oh my god,
protest.
what a joke! All right, it is 8 o'clock. Good evening, lunatics. It is Friday, February 23rd, and it is the 48th anniversary of yours truly. This is the Blue Ribbon Birthday Extravaganza, which last year I was convinced I turned 48 last year. So I've kind of got a free year, because I was like telling everybody, yeah, I'm 48. And then I think it was my wife, she goes, hey, I want you to subtract 1976 from 2023. And I went, oh, I'm 47. Okay. So I've kind of got a free year here. Let me give first an update on Larry. He had his procedure today. They did a forced regen on him, kind of like an iPhone. They turned him off and turned him back on. And apparently his rhythms are all back to where they're supposed to be. So the medical information officer is keeping him under close watch. I'm sure he will be watching tonight. So hopefully we might see him pop up in the comments. But I have a guest, pinch hitter stepping in, Justin Martin, formerly of Freightwaves. I just found that out about 45 seconds ago. So I hollered at my boy, the bearded one, and I'm like, "Hey man, I need a podcast. You wanna jump in?" And he was like, "Absolutely." So here we are. Boy, there is a lot to talk about. About 10 minutes ago, I was screaming at a TA manager on my phone. I've got video of it. I may break that out. We have a maintenance schedule. Okay, A, B, C, D. All right. Nobody else knows what that means but us. Okay. But every one of these involves a chassis lube. Okay. And at TA, if you go get a chassis lube, which is code LUTC in their standard service, it says right underneath it, tractor lubrication includes 3-box check. So the driver apparently walked in and told them that he wanted a chassis lube and a 3-box check. So naturally, they drained the transmission in both rear ends. And so I'm expecting a $50 bill, and I receive a $420 bill, and my head completely exploded. So I called, and the more this guy tried to just keep pushing it off on the driver, well, the driver said, the driver. And I'm like, listen, I know my driver. Okay. And especially this one is not a moron. Okay. And so finally, I even said, listen, man, I'll meet you halfway, because they filled this truck with synthetic gear oil. I'm sorry, conventional gear oil, when every Freightliner, hell, made in the last 20 years takes synthetic gear oil. And I'm looking at this bill and it's conventional. And I'm like, okay, well, you're draining it. And I said, look, I'll meet you halfway. I will pay half of the cost of a synthetic gear change because I am getting new oil, right? But he came back and he said, finally, I think he realized how close I was to driving over there. Just cancel the podcast and drive my ass to Virginia and just take out my frustration on somebody in person. And he was like, look, we screwed up. We're just going to charge you for the chassis lube and we'll put it back together. So thank you, Dustin at TA, for not having me drive over there and enact some sort of violence.
I just mentioned in your YouTube chat and right before we started, like this won't be the first nor the last truck that TA messes up.
Yeah,
We had
somebody asked about old Flatbed John. I think he's finally moved on to another shop. And apparently from the sounds of it, of course, here's the thing. Okay. And I try to get our guys at CAMS to not do this. You can't just automatically assume that the guy before you was an idiot. Okay. or that every problem you see, like that's that, oh well, that guy over there. I'm like, listen, if you don't want people talking about you that way, number one, don't do it. Um, so apparently they're reporting he's got a cracked bell housing and they dropped something down in the transmission. So apparently it has devolved even further. Um, but yeah, old flatbed John, man, I've been there. I have been there. Um, Many problems of my own doing, making bad choices in business, and there ain't nobody else to eat it but you, you know?
Mhm.
So, speaking of bad decisions, why don't you tell me what you know? Because I've tried my best to ignore it as if it didn't happen. But what is the origin story on this ridiculous New York City trucker protest?
So as far as like all the digging I've been able to do, it originally started with this one guy. His name is Charles, or I'm sorry, Ray. Ray from Chicago. He goes by Chicago Ray. And the original video that he put out wasn't saying that I'm protesting going into New York City. His video was, "Hey guys, I overheard 10 drivers tell me that they are protesting going into New York." And that thing just, for whatever reason, just caught fire and went viral. And all sorts of news outlets took that video and just pumped it up. And it's kind of like made a life of its own. He's since then deleted the original video, kind of walked back his statements. Now he's putting out like cryptic messages saying that he's gonna sue Fox News for taking him out of context or whatever. So I don't know. My opinion is I think this just kind of got out of hand, and he can't handle the pressure, and he's just trying to back off. But yeah, it's a viral moment, and it's got a life of its own now. People are just taking it, and it's nothing but in-group, out-group signaling at this point. It's either you're a MAGA trucker and you're hoping New York City burns to the ground because the shelves are empty, or you're a nice, good liberal progressive, and these dirty, sneaky truck drivers don't know what the hell they're talking about. Meanwhile, everyone else in logistics is still just trying to move all the pieces on the board and keep things running.
Yeah, it's just, uh, unfortunately, I'm distracted right now because I just got a text message that said this TA wants me to call him back. I don't think he wants me to do that. So Richie, Phil, Larry, you guys are gonna have to call them, because I'd love to put that live on the air, but, you know
Is this a family show? I wasn't given the rules of
well,
engagement.
not no, not really. I'm at the point right now, and I'm broadcasting live on the internet. I'm probably gonna say some shit that I probably shouldn't say,
Mhm.
if I get this dude on the phone. So, Richie, I deputize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Get them. I want video. Um, yeah, dude. I mean, even back to what was the guy's name? Santiago, Rick Santiago. Um, I remember when they were going to protest and they were going to show up here, there, and like
Oh yeah, yeah.
four people showed up.
These
Um,
protests are, they go back and back and back, years and years and years. Other than the recent Canadian protests a couple years back, every truck driver protest we've had here in the US, it's the same script over
yeah,
and over and over again. Oh, and we had that small one in Colorado that got that young driver off of the life sentence, but it's the same script every single time. Something stupid happens, it goes viral, a bunch of grifters show up, money goes missing, and 2 weeks later, everybody's pissed off, and we're back to square one. Nothing gets done.
yeah. I mean, I watched the Freedom Convoy, in Canada. Um, but guys, that was kind of a different issue. You know what I mean? It was. Um, I, I completely oppose with 100% of my being calls to further engage the FMCSA in anything. If anything, the FMCSA needs to be shut down. Um, the idea, which the cognitive dissonance of the FMCSA is the root of all my problems. I need the FMCSA to fix all my problems, right? Why isn't the FMCSA doing something? Oh, they've done stuff. They've done lots of stuff. And why you people continue to want to engage these people. Um, Now, William brings up a point, dude. The farmers in France are not fucking around. I mean,
Yeah.
they are, which the French, listen, the French will burn some shit down, right? The French don't mess around. Like I look up probably a year or two ago, and I just opened up Twitter one day, and they're burning down the central bank. I'm like, I could get with the French on this. You know, the French,
Cult-
they don't.
Culturally, the French, France, they have historically been all about protest. I mean, you give them
Oh
any excuse, and it's like I get to take the day off and burn some shit down. Let's get to it.
yeah.
So
What-
they just they have that in them. I think culturally in America, it's a totally different story because with us, it just seems. I mean, I hate using the collective us, but
yeah.
um, all the stuff that happens here, it's just nothing but noise. It's everybody just screaming at the sky, and then nothing gets done. You were talking the FMCSA earlier. I mean, they're a mess of an organization. Just you go on the Wikipedia page, and the list of administrators, it goes 2001, 2003, 2006, 2009, and then starting in 2018, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 22. It has the highest turnover rate of any government leadership position within the federal
It's
government.
a throwaway position that if I were if being involved or what am I trying to say? If I wanted to achieve heights in federal government, I don't care what you give me to be the chair of. Just make me the chair so that I can sit there and say, "Oh, well, from this time to this time, I was the administrator of the FMCSA." It's a stepping stone. It's an absolutely useless position for a useless organization that pretty much is bought and paid for by truckload carriers and um, it's just useless. But when I look around and I see, take it for example, the age old trick, and I've seen it on the state level and I've seen it on the federal level. Politicians will come up with some abhorrent bill, okay, and then they'll attach a teacher's pay raise to it, right? Or they'll attach
Hmm.
preschool funding or free lunch. They'll attach something to this piece of dog shit, and they'll be like, "How dare you vote against um, puppies, and free lunch for toddlers, and how dare you vote against teachers and fire?" And it's like, do y'all not see the big flaming pile of dog shit that they have attached this bill to? No, they don't care.
Or
But
give it a fancy title like the USA Freedom Act, and it's like if you're
oh,
against the U, are you against freedom now?
yeah, yeah. Well, and I said on your space today, everybody gets mad at the non-binary people. Let me tell you what I see when I see that. I see people who look and see the representation of men in society and representation of women in society, and they're like, "Yeah, no thanks. I'll just be over here." And I kind of feel that I kind of like I can almost empathize them with in a sense because it doesn't matter what you say. I could be like, "Hey, this envelope opener is blue. You must hate Trump. Your shirt's blue." Like, no. Oh, I guess that means you like Biden. No. No, I find both of them equally disgusting. But this binary, everything has to be about politics. Everything has to be about who's in charge. Um, we're just living 1973 to 1983 all over again. Massive
Yeah,
inflation, massive federal spending, the printing of money. The good news is we get to do the 80s again, but with Wi-Fi this time.
the
Uh,
music was better. The music was better.
yeah, I mean, so there's really no
Sorry, my
down.
my fire my fire department down the street has like an alarm going off, and I don't know if you can hear it.
I can't, so we're good.
Good. I have
But
a,
it
I have a
it would
good
go
mic.
it
Good
goes
job, Mike.
well with your lighting motif, so, as long as you're not getting swatted. Um, Now I can hear it. That's awesome. Larry said that the FMCSA is the federal government equivalent of a dog catcher. Um, I
Kind of,
don't know.
sort of. So
When
there's a dissident right political author out there, Curtis Yarvin, and he describes all this stuff as the cathedral. The way government operates is you're not put in those positions based on your competency. You're
Mhm.
put in those positions based on your connections. So
Mhm.
all these people, they go to the same schools. They know everybody. They're all related to each other. So whoever's in that position, it's because they knew whoever
Right.
put them there. And as long as you're not a total screw up, which unfortunately, because of the people that are being put in those positions are very quickly showing what a screw up they are, they're yanked and then someone else is put in there and around we go.
Did you see, Jon Stewart from The Daily Show the other day? I guess so there was the Super Bowl, and then there was an episode of The Daily Show, and then I guess this week, I don't even know what day it airs, but on that one after the Super Bowl, he had some pretty harsh criticisms of President Biden and
Oh yeah,
his,
he's
mental acuity and things like that. So the following week, he plays clips of corporate media. Jon Stewart faces backlash, and he was like, "Forgive me, please." He did like a Jimmy Swaggart, "Please, I have sinned against you," and was like, "I'm sorry, I said with my mouth what I saw with my eyes," and that cult is what I can't handle. It's the cult like behavior of the catchphrases and slogans like we talked about today on the Twitter space. Broker transparency. We just need transparency. Y'all don't even know what that is.
yeah.
You literally have no idea what it is. You want someone with a monopoly of violence, someone with force to go force someone to do something that if it was being forced on you, you would lose your minds. But yet you wonder why um, the state continues to get bigger and bigger and bigger and has more and more and more influence over our lives because y'all beg for it every day of your life. You beg and beg and beg and plead, please, uh, government, get more involved in my life. And my protest is not waving a sign. It's not driving circles around the Capitol. It's just going and living life in spite of them. And that's the thing they hate the most, you know, uh, when you go and just thrive and grow and succeed, um, the state and all of its minions, gosh, they hate that with a passion. Um, and
Yeah,
so,
I don't need to beat you. I just need to ignore you and have an alternative.
yeah, when we started doing this podcast by accident, and then it grew into a marketing tool, or not, yeah, a recruiting tool that we didn't really foresee. You'd think the two of us would be smart enough to figure that out, but it became a recruiting tool. And now that the scope is starting to broaden, there are opportunities that open up to us. Now I get 15 emails a day of nonsense that wants to be on our podcast, and I'm like, no. And they're like, "We love your podcast." I'm thinking, "You've never watched my podcast a minute in your life. You've searched like trucking, and my name popped up, and you somehow got a hold of my email and sent me this nonsense that I need to get this person on my podcast, and we can engage your audience." No, you cannot engage my audience. I will absolutely not allow it. But at some point, somebody's going to come along with a product we like, and they're probably going to give us some money, and I'm going to cash that check. And I don't give a shit what anybody thinks of it. There's a guy I love on TikTok called Check Engine Chuck. Dude up in upstate New York. He's an automotive technician, amazing diagnostician. Like I would love to figure out how to apply what he does to big trucks. And so his whole spiel is doing diagnostics on cars. Well, he did a brand deal with AutoZone, right? And these narcissistic morons attacking him. How dare you sell out? One more commercial and I'm gonna block you. I'm like, this dude has spent probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 years giving away free information every day. Of course, you got to beat that algorithm. I don't do it
Yeah.
enough. I probably do 15% of what I should if I really wanted to grow all these platforms. It's hard work. And so you have people like him and us, we give everything away. But the very second that we somehow monetize the value that we've created in the space, now somehow we're a sellout. Well, uh, gosh, I hate that for you. But I'm gonna cash every check, when
It's
they
crabs in the bucket mentality.
all right, let me read this text message. They wanted to let you know that it was typed up wrong. It was never filled with conventional and that they don't even carry it.
I'd say pull a sample out and lick it and make sure, because
um, make sure it's fully synthetic. And well, that's plausible, dude. We had a truck. Let me think. We had a truck had a leak. Oh yeah, it was a rear transmission seal leaking. Okay. And I'm like, well, stop at a TA and get the box checked. And he stopped. We ain't got no hub oil. And I'm like, well, go to the Loves. We don't Love. They don't carry it. We don't
it's
carry
a, it's,
synthetic hub.
it's a glorified gas station now.
Uh, you know, I mean, it would make sense. I've never seen whatever that thing was 80, 140, like 85, 140. I've never even seen that. But Richie, brother, you're gonna have to take over for this because
I hate that this is happening for you, but I love seeing the reaction, because like this is why I never wanted the risk of like owning a business or a truck or anything. I much prefer just making memes and shit posting for a living. This is much better for my mental health.
well, I tell you what, I mean, it'll keep you on your toes. And I don't know if since the last show I've given a full update on because it happened Friday. Um, the truck that allegedly had the bad EGR cooler in the turbo that I fixed with a fuel filter. The driver has been hauling freight with it. It's not it's not perfect. It's not 100%, but the truck's always been a turd. But after doing the overhead valve adjustment and changing the fuel filter, it's a different truck. Like it's better than it was before the fuel filter plugged up. And somebody was like, put them on blast. And I'm like, well, number one, I'm not going to do that because somebody we trust recommended that shop. And I would rather have that conversation one on one with them
Yeah.
saying, hey, just so you know, um, y'all recommended this place and this is what happened. But if they were the only ones, but they're not the only ones. Y'all
I
know
think
damn
it's
well they're
it's
not the
it's a
only ones.
sample it's a symptom of really what's happening with, so we hear the narrative of a truck driver shortage all the time, but obviously not the case. But within diesel mechanics, they really do have like a massive, massive, massive shortage of these guys.
Mhm.
Like if you're a young 17, 18, 19-year old and you're a gearhead and you can work with your hands, you are set for life, my friend. Like you need to
Oh,
go to your nearest tech school, get your certifications, and start making six figures today.
I'm going to tell you, you could even bypass the school.
Oh, it's that bad now, huh?
Well,
Because
here's
I thought most shops need just for their insurance purposes when they need like certifications.
no, no. I need you to show up. Number one, I need you to show up on time. Um, not be drunk or high. Okay, go home and get drunk and high, but come back not drunk and high. But I'm telling you, man, full disclaimer, this is coming from a homeschooler that completely rejects the entire American model of education. Okay. But give me somebody with a work ethic and I'll turn them into a master mechanic. Me, I'll do it. Right. I will. You give me somebody with a work ethic. We've got a young kid. He's probably 18. And I mean, he's a workhorse. Right now, his government school education did not do him a lot of favors, right? But as far as work ethic, he can weld. Um, but I mean, yeah, like Carl Bonecutter is the single greatest living mechanic in the history of man. He went to a tech school, and I asked him, I'm like, so what? what'd you think? And he's like, well, they taught me some stuff, but everything he learned was on the job,
Yeah.
So, um, uh, I would love to talk to Hannah from the Degree Free podcast, because she talks a lot about trades, but other things like graphic design. You don't need a college degree to graphic design.
Yeah.
At some point you may have, but go find a graphic designer and just have them teach you how to do it, or interior decorating, or help cooking. Um, Rocky
Or
said,
even better, ChatGPT is $20 a month now. You can create whatever images you want on it, and if you find something you like a so I and another fellow shit poster online, we're developing a children's book for truck drivers, and we had this idea, and I told him what we should do is crank out image after image on ChatGPT till we find something we like. Take that image and go onto Fiverr, FIVR.com, and then hire an artist on there
mhm,
and say, "Can you take this character, copy the look, and then make all kinds of different poses and facial expressions and stuff?" And then we have the ability to edit it all ourselves. I didn't go to college for any of this stuff. I'm not a graphic designer. I can't draw with this shit,
mhm.
but I can tinker with stuff on the computer and figure stuff out myself.
Yeah. Rocky Rockefeller's our MD alignment guy down in Florida. He says, I can't find a decent mechanic to add on for anything that is willing to learn something valuable. I could teach him shit over 99% don't know and are unwilling, right? So here's a guy who is an absolute expert in his field when it comes to suspension, alignment, drive line. I mean, if I see something weird, I'll just text a picture to Rocky. I'm like, the hell is this? And he's like, oh, well, that's this, that, and the other, and you put this in that way, and here's your torque specs. And so, and I promise you, Rocky knows more or has forgotten more than most trained mechanics know about tires, about tire pressures, about bushings and suspension and all this stuff. And so, like, I know who to call. Um, I mean, think about this, guys. I've been in this business since 1997. So we're 27 years. Okay. I've been in lots of shops. Who do I call? Who do I call? If I'm stumped, I call my friend Dan. Dan's a truck driver. Dan's not a mechanic, but he's taken a Detroit diesel apart like 3 times. I trust Dan more because he's had the parts in his hands. I call Rocky. I mean, Pittsburgh Power is kind of the exception, but they're not at the top of my list. Pittsburgh Power, I call them when I'm like really in trouble, and I know I'm way out of my league. But the list of people that I can call that are old Detroit mechanics or people that I've just bumped into along the way and say, hey, what do you think about this? But it's never somebody with a certification, ever. It's somebody with experience. So, and I wish we could do it with driving, but
Mm.
the
Unfortunately, the pipeline for drivers into the industry nowadays, you're not getting the best quality candidate for the job because the people that are showing up to the schools are the people at the bottom of the barrel, societally speaking, because most of the way people are funneled into this now is you work somewhere, you got laid off, you're looking for work, and you go to your unemployment office, and the person behind the counter says, "Oh, there's a truck driver shortage. Go to CDL school." So they're just getting person after
yeah,
person after person shoveled into it that should never have been in that position in the first place.
yeah. I
And
mean,
it's the opposite of what's happening with like the diesel mechanics right now.
yeah,
There's
I
just
got
there's just not
into
enough people being funneled into that pipeline.
yeah, I got into the industry because I like trucks. I mean, I had an uncle that was a truck driver, and I thought, oh, trucks are cool. Um, but yeah, I mean, and the way the what Hannah at Degree Free calls the academic industrial complex, which is just
Oh,
love.
I like that.
She calls it buying a degree. Okay, but nobody ever thinks of it that way. Well, just because you went and bought a degree doesn't mean you are entitled to anything. Just because you bought
Mhm.
a degree does not mean you are going to get a certain kind of income. That income is going to be based on your knowledge, skills, and experience, what you bring to the table, what value you bring. But the school systems are literally driving that best and brightest away from the trades. Well, I would like to get some people with that higher intellect, so to speak, with a welder in their hand, or get them turning wrenches on a diesel truck. It's not to say that the guys that I work with in shop are stupid. They're not. A bunch of them are very, very bright, and usually can find things that other people can't just because they're. But they were never, when they were in school, they were never treated like they were worth anything. It's like, well, you're too dumb to do anything else, so go over here and turn a wrench, or here's a welder, you know.
Yeah.
And I hate that they've been made to believe that. I hate that they have been made to believe that they're dumb, because they did not work well within the prepackaged Prussian model of education.
Funny, perfect. Man, I was going to mention that. I'm so glad you said Prussian. I'm sure your audience is hip on it, but people who are tuning in because of me, in case you don't know, the American public school system is based on the Prussian model, which was designed to create future factory workers, and it's still the same today.
Yep.
You show up on the bell, you go to class on the bell, you leave class on the bell. The desks are all in a row. Like the way the classrooms are set up, it looks exactly like a factory floor. Once
Mhm.
you get out of school, nobody's working the factory floors, so you just spent 12 years of your life going through a system for something that no longer is, you know, pertinent to reality on the ground right now. And if you're rich and lucky enough, you can go to like a Montessori school where you'll be set up for success. Once you get out the other end. But for the vast majority of people out there, that's not an option open to them.
Yeah. Well, we're trying. I mean, obviously, as you can imagine, since 2020, homeschooling has received quite a significant bump. I mean, I'm in a state of 1.7 million people, and we saw, like almost, um, almost a doubling, right, in
Hmm.
the beginning. It's kind of fallen off now, but when all the craziness first started happening and they shut everything down, there were people like, well, I can't just leave my kids to watch YouTube. Like, we have to do something. And so, what was once, oh, homeschooling's too much, I don't have the time. When they were kind of forced into it, they went, well, this isn't that bad, right?
Yeah,
And then I think, I promise you, there's a lot of parents that went, wait a minute, we got my kids out of these schools, and their attitude is improved, and their health is improved, and their outlook is improved, and so they just never sent them back. So we're trying to create Montessori type little co-ops. We've had one where, I don't know, 10 or 15 kids that get together once a week. Um, you know, uh, but when I see, there's this big, huge West Virginia homeschoolers group, and every week it's somebody, okay, we're, we've made the decision. Okay, what do we do now? I'm like, relax, take a deep breath and calm down. Okay. Just let the kids sleep for about a week. Just don't mess with them. Just let them sleep. Let them play. Let them get it out of their system. Take a deep breath. You're going to be okay. You have time. And for the people that can get away from that and not feel like they have to recreate that Prussian model at home, um, which everybody does, and then it lasts about 2 weeks, and they're like, the desk that they bought, on Facebook is now, back out on the street. But um, man, life is learning. Like, just going through life with some curiosity, and that's what I've got, an album on my phone of screenshots I've taken. I call it Stupid Landstar Posts, and I see these ridiculous, and I'm gonna call them stupid questions. And, "Well, there's no such thing as stupid question." No, no, there are stupid questions, and I see lots of them. And my contention there is that there's literally an 800 number. for the Landstar corporate office in Jacksonville and Rockford, Illinois. And there are people on the other side of that phone number whose literal job, they're paid, they've got salaries, they've got benefits, and their job is to answer the questions of BCOs and say, here's what's going on with your permits, or here's what's going on with this, that, and the other. No, I'm going to go on Facebook and get lied to rather than just call Jacksonville. Just pick up the phone. But I promise you, they don't know the phone number.
Hmm.
Then because I've literally had people, and I feel like we get above average people. I had a guy, I don't know, a year or two ago. He kept texting in our group saying, "Something, call me, please. Call me, please." And I finally went, "Hey, buddy, do you have my phone number saved in your phone?" And he went, no. Okay. Well, how about, I'm just saying, how about you save my number in your phone? And then if you need me, you can see my name and you can just hit that and it will call me. I don't know. There's something that's happened in the disconnect. And I guess it's the anonymous nature of tapping on the phone in a Facebook group rather than being faced with that interpersonal communication of having to ask the right question. How
Hmm.
does this work? And there's that if somebody wants to blame social media, I guess maybe that's the thing. But just call the permit department, call the hazmat department. Um, don't ask somebody that doesn't know and will probably lie to you, and then please don't take that lie and tell the next person that lie just because you heard it from somebody on Facebook. That,
Worst game of telephone ever.
oh, dude, it's crazy. How Ananias Pierce on TikTok, how to find a good mechanic shop. That's right here. That's how you do it. Start in your local area, wherever you're at the most. I mean, there are people, here or Charleston, West Virginia, or there are people in Michigan or Florida, wherever you're at the most. Start with a phone call. Hey, I'm an owner operator and I'm in this area a lot. Just wondering if I could stop by because I kind of like to have somebody to know. Oh, yeah, well, come on by. Or if they blow you off, hang up and call the next one. It's gotten to the point now when I first started being fleet manager and somebody would break down, it was terrifying. I'm like, how am I going to find somebody? How am I going, now I just go to Google. I literally will go to the Verizon GPS and I will copy the coordinates, paste that into Google Maps and type in heavy truck repair. And I call the first one. Hey, I've got a truck down over here in this place. Can you? Nope. Okay. Call the next one. Yeah, I've got a truck broke down brake chamber. Can you get to me? Not 3 hours. Okay. Next. I mean, there's truckdown.com and there's all this website. I just use Google Maps.
Did you ever do sales like in a previous life?
No, I was terrible at sales. I did I sold cars. Well, no, that's wrong. I worked at a dealership as a salesman and I sold like 2 cars.
Okay,
Uh,
because I think a lot of people would benefit from just having like a really crappy sales job somewhere for like a week, and just to get over that, because it's a hump. It's like
right.
there's like the stereotype of the millennial that's like too afraid to pick up a phone to order a pizza, so they just do everything through their app. But that is so true. Like people are terrified to pick up a phone and call somebody and speak to like a real person on the other end now.
Yeah. Well, it's like the meme I've seen of the gas station and it says, "See cashier." No, thanks. I'll just run out of gas. You know, I'm not gonna walk in. Listen, I'm gonna tell you right now that I will drive around to another pump before I walk inside and make sure the card reader works on that one. That's
Well,
just
that's the lovely thing about living in the state of New Jersey. It's illegal for me to pump my own gas, so they have
still,
somebody at the. Oh yeah. We are the one last state in the union where
who's
it's
the other
illegal
one?
to pump your own
Oregon
gas.
or Washington?
Oregon, yeah, they
Oregon.
just legalized it last year or the year before, I believe.
Yeah, but listen, every time I've met somebody and they say, "I live in New Jersey," I'm like, "Why? Why?"
I didn't have a choice. My wife's family's from here. The schools are good. She's on the school board now. She actually just got sworn in like a couple weeks ago, so things are great. We're lucky. We're in Ocean County. We have excellent schools where we're at.
If you're in Dallas, looking for a good shop, now there was a guy that commented on one of our TikToks, and I looked up his shop and then completely forgot it because I didn't write it down. But TAT Express are in the. They're kind of in. If you have Dallas Fort Worth, they're kind of in the southeast corner of kind of Dallas area, like around where the TA and stuff is. Um, they have a YouTube channel. A lot of great information that they give away there. And one of our BCO mentoring clients went there and had some work done. So if I was in Dallas, I would go TAT Express. Um, do you recommend going to TA for a rear main seal? Unfortunately, no. I do not recommend going to TA for a rear main seal. Richie says, I'm curious to know what happens if you pump your own gas in New Jersey. Does SWAT come to your home with a search warrant and blow your shit down?
Usually, the guy at the pump does just like, no, 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 I have it, and they chase you off. Depends where you're at. If it's like a small mom and pop station, um, they probably don't care. But like if you're at a Wawa, yeah, it's like three goons running the pumps, and they'll chase you off real quick. Or teens. It's usually if you're a young kid in New Jersey, running a pump is like a really good summer job. Not
Yeah.
a very good winter job.
Richie says, man arrested for illegal possession of fuel pump. Uh, Richie's from Florida, by the way. So that should explain everything you need to know.
I'm sorry, Richard. Well, half the people in Florida are from New Jersey anyway, so
Well, that's true. Right. And,
I,
and
I, I grew
Richie
I, I grew up in South Florida as well.
and Richie wishes they would all go back. Um,
Now that I live in New Jersey, it makes absolute sense to me why so many people in Florida are from New Jersey. The property taxes are insane up here. So I think what happens is most people grow up here in the north and they're just getting slaughtered by the
yeah.
property taxes. So then they migrate south. That was great in like the 80s and 90s, but now it's overpriced in Florida. So everybody's going to the Carolinas instead.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm sure they're glad to have everybody too. Um, we were. Do you follow college football at all?
No, that's more my wife. She's the sports fanatic in the household.
Well, we were talking last night. There's a guy named um, Eli Gold, who is the voice, or has always been the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and was a NASCAR broadcaster. Well, apparently they fired Eli Gold. Alabama did. Um, and I'm looking at the last few weeks, and it's like Nick Saban retired, Rick and Bubba are shutting it down. Now they've fired Eli Gold. I don't know who's in charge of Alabama right now, but they need to go home because they're drunk. Um, and of course, this Supreme Court thing that blew up, something about fertilized eggs or something. I mean, Alabama, y'all need to calm down. Y'all just need to calm down because things are getting ugly.
I
Um,
I think I think my parents being Air Force and us moving around a lot kind of beat any kind of sports loyalty fanaticism out of my
oh yeah,
system. The last major city I moved into before I settled out here in Jersey was Philadelphia, and learning what the Philadelphia sports fans are like was just like I'm living in a cult. Like I love it. I love the energy. It was great. Like you go to a
yeah.
live sport event there is nothing like being in a Philadelphia sports team crowd. Like the energy there is electric. But I'm like these people are certifiably insane and mean. Oh my god, mean.
I've always tried to reconcile the city of brotherly love with Philadelphia sports fans. Like those two things.
It's propaganda. It's propaganda. The real slogan of Philadelphia is "No one likes us. We don't care."
Okay. Well, I would rather drive a truck to Manhattan than through Philadelphia.
Oh no, Philly's an easy city. It's small. It's so easy getting around there.
Ah, no
I drove a
thank
postal truck through there for 5 years. It was great.
Oh, hell no. No, thank you. What was the other there was some other big news over the week I was thinking. Um, uh, let's see, we talked about the protest. There was the the wreck at the Port Wentworth, Georgia, the rest area. Did you see that? Dude went barreling in there at 70 miles an hour. And
In the rest area?
yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
I guess it was the get off ramp. Um, and some people are saying it was some sort of medical issue, but there was a truck with dash cam. And so he's sitting this way, and there's like a Werner truck sitting here, and dude just comes in and just pile drives that Werner truck.
Mhm.
And there was a big fire and burn up 4 or 5 trucks. I think there were 2 drivers killed. Um, Landstar has this sitting duck policy where you are not allowed to park within 14 feet of a traveled road. So there's no shoulders, no get on ramps, get off ramps. When I first came, I hated it, but um, I don't like sleeping in rest areas. They're just too close to 70 mile an hour, 80-ton bullets. Put me in a truck stop. I know I'm going to get my hood tore off, but I'm not going to get a truck through the side of my sleeper at 70 miles an hour, you know?
No, the truck parking issue is so crazy right now because it's just like the driver shortage. It's you never know if what's real, what's not, whether it's um the reality on the ground or if it's just money making propaganda. Because there's so much money tied up in these like infrastructure bills
Yeah.
that they can't get the money unless they promise that they're going to also build truck parking. But I don't care how much money you set aside, nobody wants to have semi trucks parked
Right.
anywhere near their homes. Um, so that's why you got guys like Evan over at Truck Parking Club trying to, do what he can on like the real estate side. Like he's not building any truck parking. He's finding guys with empty lots that already have trucks that park there and saying, "Hey, you can actually be charging for this." Oh,
Yeah.
really? Okay, here's my platform.
Yeah, we found one. I'm trying to think of the name of it. Landstar told me about it, and it's like $20 a day or $25 a day, but it's full security, gated lights. Somebody tell me that Richie or something Barb. Somebody tell me the name of that thing that we used, but they've got them in Kansas City and Houston and Dallas and Charlotte, all kinds of different places. And
Yeah, if
I
you go to their
remember,
website, they have like a Google map and it has pins all over the map, so you can see exactly where they're at. Now, there's like definitely some dead spots, like Utah.
yeah,
There's nothing. There's like one spot at like the very tip top of the shape state, and then there's one all the way down south. Um, South Florida is basically a ghost town. But if you're near like major cities and you're in a pinch, they can help you out for sure.
that is awesome. Yep, nothing in West Virginia. Where's Grace in Kentucky? That's not too bad. Um,
And they
well,
have a referral program, by the way, too. I'm not like sponsored by them or anything.
yeah,
But if you know of somebody that has a spot, hit them up on Twitter, um, and they'll kick a couple bucks your way.
I am going to send that out to the fleet right now because I wasn't aware of it. I want, I want the market to solve these problems. You
Yeah,
know, I want us to stop crying out to the state to fix these problems because they're never going to fix it. Like you said, it's always going to be some bullshit tied to the gimmick. And then somebody's going to take the money and run off with it. And there will never be any accountability. This is what I want to see. This is the market solving problems. So he's found places that already exist, right? So it's not like they're building new infrastructure. Um, yeah, this is awesome. I'm gonna check this out. Um, and I think it's only going to get better, especially as we get more, you know, more blockchain kind of decentralized networks built up. That things will be much more apparent in real time as to what's happening and when it's happening. Um, but expecting the state to solve these problems, um, they'll break your leg, hand you a crutch, and then say, "Aren't you glad we were there to help?" No, I wish you wouldn't have broke my leg in the beginning.
another
That's
another great example of this is so we were talking earlier about like people who think in jingles and slogans and stuff. A lot of these guys that are barking at the moon about broker transparency, they just go on and on and on about the rule. I keep blanking on it. It's 49.
yeah,
It's 49 CFR. Blah blah blah. It's like who cares? Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There are people working on solutions right now. The problem is trying to get from 0 to, as Peter Thiel would call it, 0 to 1. It's like
Mhm.
climbing Mount Everest. Um, these guys over at Truck Coin Swap, I hate the name, they're working on something that's similarly. I hosted a debate panel at a crypto conference in Chicago last summer with Mike Lombard, another great truck driver, and so he was there. A guy from FedEx was there, and they had like another carrier from Chicago, and they were explaining like all the benefits from their perspective of how like crypto and blockchain and stuff could apply with supply chain.
Mhm.
And what the guys at FedEx, they'd been apparently FedEx is like super tapped into all this stuff. They have something called the Hyperledger they're working on. Like that's your transparency right there. Everything on the
Mhm.
blockchain, everything is like right there for people to read. And while I'm on stage like listening to these guys, and I'm thinking, man, I have no idea how I ended up here. I'm just I'm just some guy happy to be here. But I had this idea like while they were talking, like if you're a conscious consumer, like a shopper, like say you're a mom that's very cautious about like what country sources like the fruits and vegetables you buy your kids. You're at the store, you see a can of fruits on the shelf, and wouldn't it be great to see exactly where that stuff came from? And
Mhm.
if everything is a node on the blockchain, you got it from origin to destination, every single thing along the way. And I see that coming. It's going to take years. It's going to be a while to develop, but all the crowd and everybody, all the developers that were at this thing, they're young, driven, and they're all just obsessed with trading JPEGs with each other on the internet. I'm like, no, 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 stop doing that stupid shit. Like, get into logistics, get into supply chain, write software for stuff that's actually going to be moving, the physical world. Don't worry about these stupid pump and dump coin schemes. Like
Mhm.
this is the stuff that really matters here. And they got
I'm
excited about it.
I'm gonna tell you, I don't I don't think it's gonna take very long. Um, because if you look, the iPhone was released in 2007.
Mhm.
All right, 5 years later was 2012. The world had already radically changed in just 5 years, okay?
Once the App Store came online, it was
It's over,
complete total game
right?
changer. The first iPhone didn't even have apps.
No. No, it was I mean, to go back now and watch Steve release the first, iPhone and the genuine awe from the crowd, like, they were like, "Oh my gosh, this is insane." Because 'cause we'd heard the rumors, and of course, I'm an idiot, and I'm like, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. Nobody needs a phone that'll do all that." Okay,
It doesn't have a keyboard. What use is it?
right. Okay, so 2007, in less than 5 years, the entire world was changed, all right?
Mhm.
And when that iPhone hit, like, it came out of nowhere. Nobody no that was not on anybody's radar of a phone having that kind of capability. And those of us that were early on, my first iPhone was in '09. I remember being frustrated that the Android people had features that I didn't, and I was jailbreaking my phone all the time because I wanted to get ahead. But by 20 probably 14, they released numbers and pages and all that stuff on the iPad, and I mean, it was life-changing. Okay, so to draw the parallel, y'all, blockchain has existed since 2008, right? We are 16 years into the kind of backdoor, backroom development. It will only take one little spark, and I think the whole thing gets turned. I think international markets are turned. I think currencies are turned. And I think, man, I think it could happen, what is this, 2024? By 26, 27, I think we could see radically different markets. So here, saying all that to say this, transparency people, come here, gather around. I want y'all to listen. Y'all don't even have any idea what transparency really is.
Mhm.
Okay. Because if you'll understand this one nugget about blockchain, indelible, digitally autonomous network. Okay. Meaning data can't be changed. Meaning, if you give shitty service, you will never outrun that stain, ever. Okay. So if you're a dirt bag, everybody's going to know you're a dirt bag. Conversely, if you're a superstar, everybody's going to know you're a superstar. But there's a bunch of y'all screaming transparency, transparency, transparency because the problem's the brokers. No, go walk into the bathroom, look in the mirror, look at the guy you see in the mirror and say, this is your fault. It's not the brokers. It's not the carriers. It's not the government. It's not Biden. It's not Trump. It's not Putin. It's not China. It's not the immigrants. It's you. You are the problem. You are your hindrance. You are what is wrong with your life. And so then when this real transparency shows up, a bunch of y'all are screwed. Okay. So just get ready for that because it's going to bring unbelievable levels of just wonderful things. But for a bunch of y'all, you better get your shit together and do it quickly. And stop blaming other people for your own, look, I've talked about Flatbed John. Are you aware of Flatbed John?
No, sir.
Okay. Very quickly. Flatbed John is a owner operator for Mercer, asked a TA to change a rear main seal. As you can imagine, it did not go well. It's now been since January 31st and the truck is still not put back together.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Now listen, when my truck blew up in 2015, people donated, people gave us gave us money. I mean, we survived solely because of the generosity of other people. And so if you feel led to go help John with his Cash App and his GoFundMe, I encourage you to go do it because people did it for me. But the one thing that John and I have in common is that the fruits of our decision making was similar. Okay. I was in that position because of me. And John is in this position because of John. All of the donations and all of the help, I really struggled throughout 2016 because I knew I did not deserve that help. My business probably should have died December 21st of 2015. But people rallied around me, right? And they helped me. And I still failed anyway because of me. Wasn't because of Landstar, wasn't because of brokers, wasn't agents, wasn't whoever was president at the time. Hell, I don't even remember. Whoever was president in 2017. Trump? Yeah, Trump.
Yeah.
Wasn't his fault. It was me. I need John to make sure that he goes, hey, I really screwed up here. I started this train down the tracks and it completely derailed. And it's only going to be John that keeps it from going off the tracks again. I hope he learns that lesson because if he doesn't, he's going to have a very painful future ahead of him, and the life of his business is going to be very short. I've been
extreme ownership, as Jocko Willink would call it.
Yeah. You just have to do it. Dwayne Johnson, I just got my first iPhone. Well, welcome to the club, my friend. Welcome to church. Welcome to the bright side of things.
I went back and forth when the iPhone first came out. I didn't get one until like iPhone 4, I believe. Then I went back to Android, then went back to iPhone. So I bounced back and forth. But I've been with an Android for like my last 3 phones. An iPhone for my last 3 phones. Now I'm like completely in the Apple ecosystem. I'm on a MacBook Pro and I have an iPhone. And what's great is when you have 2 Apple products, they communicate seamlessly with one another. I can copy and paste. I can copy something on my laptop, paste it in my phone, and vice versa. I can send files back and forth, and it just works. It's magic.
The collaboration. I can create a numbers spreadsheet and put it in a shared folder, and any person that has access to that folder, I can see their cursor, right? Not with Microsoft Excel. Nightmare. When Larry had his medical issue and I had to jump in and do payroll and settlements, everything was in Excel. And I got through the first week fine. I'm like, okay, whew, made it. Went to do them the next week. And as soon as I would create the new file, Microsoft would be like, oh, so you want this to be read only? I'm like, no, I don't want it to be read only. That doesn't help me, Microsoft. So I'm like, okay, workaround. So I created a completely separate file, copied the format from the old one into the new one. And Microsoft says, I see what you did there. And I'm going to make this one read only too. I had to convert the whole thing to numbers because I was about to bash everything on my desk into tiny little pieces. I was so pissed off. My son comes walking through he comes walking through the house with this little television. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm going to try something. I'm like, oh gosh, I've been there. He's 14. So he sits, it's right there behind me. He somehow he found an old Xbox 360. I don't know where it came from. So he plugs it into this television. We're sitting in the floor. And he goes, hey, I need you to sign into this with your Microsoft account. I tried for 30 minutes. And it was like, there's a problem with your account, error code, in like 17 numbers. Well, just go to Microsoft. No, there's literally no help. No help.
Wow.
If that was an Apple device, I would have been in it in 20 seconds. God, I hate Microsoft with every fiber of my being.
So Android has some of this stuff too. Like if you're on like the Google ecosystem, they have
Yeah.
Google Sheets and Google Docs and all that stuff. But the first like aha moment for me is if you're at somebody's house and they have an iPhone and they have Wi-Fi,
Mhm.
if their number is stored on both of your phones, you have their Wi-Fi password like right there.
Yep.
I never had to ask anyone for the Wi-Fi password when I go to their house. It just pops up. Hey, do you want their Wi-Fi? Absolutely. It just
I made
whoever at Apple came up with that idea, I hope they were like just given a whole bunch of company stock and they're
yeah.
a gazillionaire right now.
I made an impulse purchase about a month ago. We were in Cincinnati for something. Oh, we took the kids to Great Wolf Lodge, and after my daughter wanted to go see some huge, enormous market with like food from all over the world. So there's like an Indian section, and there's a Iraqi section, and Afghanistan. I mean, like just everything as far as you see. And so we went into this mall, and there was an Apple store. And I've only been in an Apple store like one other time in my life because we don't have one in West Virginia. And I walked out with a MacBook. But boy, it was life changing. I mean, my iPad has always been suffice for me to, if I'm sitting at a restaurant, I can access everything. But just the layout, the way things were, and now I have that MacBook, and I have a little extra monitor that I can plug up, little portable monitor, so I can have two screens sitting at Starbucks or Panera or whatever. Oh, dude, it's life changing for a fleet manager.
I was given a MacBook Pro work laptop from Freightwaves, and I was like, "Oh, this is what they can do now! Holy shit!" So I bought my own. Now they're not perfect. There's definitely some scummy stuff Apple does here and there. Like if so, you have one external monitor hooked up. Depending on the make and model of your MacBook, you can only have one external monitor
Mhm.
unless it's the gazillion-dollar MacBook Studio monitors. Then they let you hook up however many you want, or you buy the latest model Apple Silicon chip, blah blah blah, whatever shit. And it's just like, okay, I see what you guys are doing. Just take my money, please. It's worth it.
I have there is a workaround because I have 3 27-inch monitors, right? And I
Oh
have
yeah, or you buy a bunch of dongles and you make it
no,
work. Yeah.
no, I have an Apple TV connected to this monitor, and my Mac Mini will, what do you call it? Will AirPlay
Oh,
to my Apple TV, and so now I have 3. It gives me 3 screens, and then when I'm mobile, I can plug in my external monitor, but if I set my iPad off to the right and I have a touchpad, my cursor will go off of the screen and hit my iPad.
I was just about to say that because when I had both my Freightwaves laptop and my personal laptop, I had them side by side, and it was like, "Do you want to take your cursor from this screen off to the next one?" And I was like, "I can do that." It's
Yes,
like, "Yeah,
please.
go ahead." I was like, "Holy shit, this is like." So at one point in time, I had 5 monitors going on. Was I had
Yeah.
2 I had one laptop hooked up to 2 monitors and one laptop hooked up to 1 monitor, and each, it's just like I'm like my ADHD was going nuts that day because 'cause I'm playing around with stuff, but I was like, "I cannot believe how they got everything worked out now."
All right. So this completes your Apple fanboy
Yeah, yeah,
segment.
okay.
Yeah. We got
Apple,
off.
send me my check, please.
Um, Dwayne, how is Larry? Larry's doing well. He had a procedure today. They unplugged him and plugged him back in. They did like a factory reset, and he's doing much better. Um, let's see. I don't see any new questions. Everybody's will talk about trucking. Now here's one. Transparency is like a race to the bottom.
Yes.
I don't. I disagree. Um,
Oh,
well,
I can
okay.
see where they're coming with that.
No, I see where you can come with that. Okay, but everybody agrees the market's down, right? That's not up for debate. The market is down, rates are down. Okay, most people believe that the reason they're down is because there's too many trucks and not enough loads, right? Supply and
You'd
demand.
be surprised. There's quite a
Well,
few, anti-supply and demand,
oh, I
folks
know.
out there.
Well, yeah, I don't want to hear about supply and demand. Well, listen, I know you don't want to hear about math, but it's math. Okay, reasonable people believe that the market is down because of supply.
I'm stealing that.
All right,
Reasonable
reasonable
people.
people. Okay, yet we as a fleet tracked our numbers all last year, and we were $3.29 per loaded mile for the entire year of 2023. And I don't have it up in front of me. Last time I looked, we're at like 322 or something for the month of January. All right. We're up $100,000 in revenue over last January. February is trending up. All right. We were down $1 million real money from 22 to 23. At the end of the year, we were $1 million less in net receipt or not net income from one year to the next. But our profit went up in 23. We went down $1 million, but our profit was up, which
Mhm.
means we were better at managing our expenses. The race to the bottom thing has to live on the assumption that if you knew what everybody was doing, you would do it for less. But that's not logical. That if I knew, and I'm going to tell you right now, I know what the customer's paying because in the history back to when we started, especially the 3PL model, the average broker commission is 15%. So if you are connected to the broker, not a double broker, okay, but if you can see that carrier broker name, and you know that the customer's paying them on average, add 15%. That's just basic math. Are there sometimes they're going to get 5 and other times they're going to get 30? Sure. Because truck drivers are capable of making really bad decisions. But even in the smaller ecosystem that is Landstar, one day I'll run 500 miles for $1,400, and the next day I'll run 500 miles for $1,100. Is what it is. For the longest time, we've run a specific load from Virginia to Ohio, 412 loaded miles. And it paid just under $1,500. So it was a great load, drop and hook on both ends. They sent an email today. Would you still be willing to run this at like 1,036? And I said, nope. No, I'm not going to do it for $500 less. I know that shipper has lost their mind, and they think that they'll come in here and get somebody to do that 412 miles for $1,000, but they've lost their minds because I'm sure as hell not going to do it. And there's a whole bunch of other BCOs that aren't going to do it. And so we're probably going to lose that lane until the market shifts, and then they're going to come crawling back, which is what they always do. You'd think they'd learn their lesson by now, but they never do. And so they'll get some fly by night come in there and do it for $900. $2 a mile would be $842. That'd be $2 a mile. They'll probably get somebody to come in there and run that for $800 or $900 for a little while until one load ends up over the hillside, somewhere on the West Virginia Turnpike and burns to the ground. And a few others disappear. And they never show up in time to actually be unloaded at the destination where they're supposed to. And they'll go, well, damn, that didn't work. Maybe let's call Landstar back. They'll do it for
like
50.
sometimes you get what you pay for.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. One of the greatest stories I got to be a close acquaintance to the shipping supervisor for the dedicated run that I did for like 7 years. And I walked in his office one day and I said, man, how things going? He goes, goddamn truck drivers. I'm like, what happened? They build windows free home, windows and doors. And he goes, I want you to look at this. And he pulls up a security footage and I see a tractor trailer. I see the trailer come into view. I see the driver come around, open the doors, takes a window out of the back. All right. It's like 5 o'clock in the morning. The receiver doesn't get there till like 6:30. Driver takes the windows and throws them across the fence. Windows made of glass. And he takes 4 or 5 windows out, chucks them across the fence, and closes the door and leaves. And he goes, I've never seen anything like that in my life. Well, I didn't say, but I knew because he had tried to cut my rate, and I told him to piss off. I know what he had done. He has hired that local carrier to come in and do that work, and he got what he paid for.
Yep.
Yes, Barbara. Did anybody give me the name, Barbara? What was the name of that place? The place in Houston. And it's got a catchy name, like Stow, S-T-O-W, semi-stow parking. Yeah, semi-stow, semistow.com. I beat y'all to it. That's why I'm the fleet manager and y'all are the drivers. Well, and I wanted to go back to something you had said about parking, the parking shortage. I drove for 25 years and I never had a problem finding a parking space. But I'm an excellent trip planner. I always had a plan. I always had a backup plan. And I always had a backup plan for my backup plan. And I remember when reserve parking at TA and Petro first came out. And I looked over there and I saw those big goofy looking yellow poles and reserve parking. And I saw a driver park. I'm like, hey, what is that? And he was like, man, I paid $12 and that's my spot. And I'm like, y'all, that's the second best thing to slice bread. I used the shit out of reserve parking, and I would always bump my fuel points up to the highest gear so I could trade credits for reserve parking. And I would watch these morons. How dare they? I heard one. Oh, where was I? I think I was at that TA in Bloomsbury, New Jersey. And I heard this truck driver on the radio. He said, tax dollars paid for that parking lot. And I'm like, do y'all just honestly believe that the government's the only person possibly, capable of laying pavement? Tax dollars paid for that asphalt. They shouldn't be allowed to reserve it. I'm like, are you drunk?
It's private property, bud.
Yeah, private property.
And on the truck stop side too, it's very clever. It's a great way to trap people in their ecosystem. So like when my dad and I drove team together, we decided rather than jump around from brand to brand, we were going to solely buy fuel from Flying J because our company at the time was like fuel, put whatever's in the truck as long as it keeps the wheels running. So we only fueled at Flying J and Pilots, and we had all of our fuel rewards on one card. And rather than split the reward across, 5 different brands, within 6 months, my dad had like a brand new like truck GPS, and it's a pile of crap now, but it was great because we were racking up points and showers and stuff, no problem. And I think it's the same with this truck parking. If you can take rewards points, if you're fueling at these places that you're also parking at for the night, save up your points, get your shower, and you got your parking spot for the night.
I'm going back through these comments and I just found gold. Now I lost it. Um, oh gosh, where'd it go? The state, this is good. You're going to love this. The state is akin to the Landstar system. Thank you their percentage and supposedly give you benefits in return. They take, well, nobody's forcing you to lease the Landstar or Mercer or Schneider or Swift or Prime or JB Hunt or US Express. If you don't like the contract, you can leave. That's a little difficult with the state, right? I mean, you can leave with nothing, you know. I saw one of these people whining about the border one day, and I made some smart ass comment about like that fence is to keep you in, not keep anybody else out. Well, I can leave anytime I want to. I said, okay, run on down to the border, okay, and announce I'm out of here. And you will be as poor and destitute as the person on the other side of the planet because they will take everything you have. You are not free to leave, sweetheart. That's not happening.
That's a great segue back into the truck protest. Like that was completely blown out of proportion too. There was reports that like 700,000 truck drivers were supposed to show up at the border, and it was like 10 guys. It was a bunch of
Oh,
RVs,
oh
absolutely, a bunch of
yeah,
RVs and like 10 trucks.
yeah. Well, and there was a guy that had a live stream. Was it TikTok or Facebook? It had to have been Facebook. Only boomers on Facebook. That had this live, and we're convoying to the border, and I'm like, that looks like the hood of like a Silverado. That is that is not a Freightliner. Okay, like this dude's in like a Buick station wagon or something. Um, but I remember back in what year was the migrant caravan? 17, 18. It was after Trump was elected, or maybe it was right before. No, it was right before the pandemic, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's all over the
A
place.
migrant caravan. And there was just this line of like, and then they just disappeared. Like like the aliens came down and just vacuumed them all up and they were gone the next day. You know? God,
I would say things are a little bit different now because now we have footage. Like people go to the border all the time and they're streaming stuff that's happening, and there absolutely are people coming across the border that should not be coming across. I think companies like Anduril that Palmer Luckey has, they have great solutions. Instead of building like a literal physical wall, you just have a bunch of sensors all over the place, and if it catches somebody, you send the people out there to get them and send them back.
like a laser, you know? I, I,
Or ideally, have everybody come in through a checkpoint, like a port of entry, and verify they are who they say they are, and then keep track of everybody coming in and out across the border. Instead, it's being used as like a game to signal what side of the aisle that you're on.
right.
And I think the only clever thing I've ever seen happen with inside like this border dispute bullshit is the southern states sending the migrants north. I think that was like whoever did that was like 150 IQ level 4D chess genius, because you got all these cities out there claiming to be sanctuary cities, and they're like, okay, take them, and it's like, no, no,
Right.
no, 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 we take it back, we take it back. And it's like,
There was
okay,
a
good luck.
story a week or two, I think it was Australia, where some little shop business owner had said, and I guess they were into the native, it belongs to the native people and colonizers and all this stuff. And I can't remember what the name of this minority group was of indigenous whatevers, right? But there was a name. What bunch of those people showed up? and they would,
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. It was
and
a
they wouldn't let
it's
them
an
in.
Australian yeah, it's an Australian comedian, I'm blanking on his name, but they
Yeah,
had a plaque
yeah,
outside, and it was like, "This land is, owned by blah, blah, blah," and so a bunch of people from that tribe showed up, and they're like, "Hey, we're here," and they're like, "Here for
yeah.
what?" "Our land?"
We're here for our property. And they wouldn't let them in. It was so good. Yeah, virtue signals don't generally work out very well.
You
Um,
gotta call them on their bluff, every single time.
oh,
Same with this trucker protest, same with everything. It's like, "Okay, you really believe X, Y, and Z, let's take it to where it's gotta go."
I can't get past, just personally, just speaking for myself. If I believed that there was an answer in Washington in going to New York, I don't have the time. Right? I don't I I don't have I'm too busy. I'm I mean, I don't want that to sound like it sounds, but it's just the truth. Like, where am I gonna get the time to stop doing what I'm doing, to go stop, hold a sign, drive around? I mean, like, the fuel money, you know? I mean, from here to New York's 600 miles, that's gonna I don't know. Um I can't reconcile. I could be working, but instead of working, I'm gonna go protest. I don't understand the logic.
They're not
Yeah.
working, is that's the problem, is they have too much free time on their hands. I'm sitting here smirking because as you're saying this, I'm thinking of these, like, owner-operator groups on Facebook that send, their representatives to Congress or whatever, and it's a waste of their member dues. Like, it's you're just pissing money in the wind. Like, you're wasting everybody's time. Sending a Congress critter a letter once a week and maybe having a meeting in DC once a year accomplishes nothing. Unless you're a giant lobby with a boatload of cash,
Mhm.
you're wasting everybody's time.
Well, I got kicked out of the NOOA Facebook group, and I kinda wish I would've kept my mouth shut, but that's pretty much impossible. So I made it like 2 weeks before I got booted.
I'm surprised.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I tried kinda going incognito and but I couldn't help myself. And when I'm encountering that much stupidity, um, and just bad grammar and lack of logic, I couldn't help myself. And so, it didn't take much to get booted out. But the claims that they make, I can't help but what's his name? Boston?
Yeah,
Uh,
Michael Boston.
I mean, gosh, I mean, walks like a crook, talks like a crook, quacks like a crook. Like, I just can't.
Oh, you don't know?
No,
Go
on the what?
open up a Google page right now and type in Michael Boston SEC.
Uh-oh. Oh, oh.
You were
Uh,
talking about transparency earlier and how, people that are bad actors are going to be found out. We have a taste of that right now with a quick Google search.
oh. Oh. Hold
I wish we'd done this at the start of the show so more people would see this. The look on your face is priceless.
On April 15th, the commission instituted an administrative proceeding against Michael Boston, former representative associated with the defunct broker-dealer Baxter, Banks& and Smith. The order instituting administrative proceeding with okay, blah, blah, blah. Entered a default judgment against Boston, permanently enjoining him from violating the Securities Registration and Anti-Fraud Provisions of the Securities Act of 1933. Complaint. Wow. But yet he's still going, right? I mean, it doesn't seem to have stopped him.
That's where like the weird. It's a gray matter because he's not a financial broker anymore. Like he's not allowed to broker
Right.
money, I guess. Um, I was told years ago that the initial plan with Noah was they were going to create a load board where everybody would be free and clear and transparent with this stuff. Uh, I just sent my friends a text saying that you're reading his SEC filing. They said, "Tell him to read James Lamb next."
Oh, I know that guy. Will
That's
you?
another great one.
Oh,
We believe that there's some cross pollination between the two. We don't know if Lamb is running stuff behind the scenes or whatnot. Anytime you mention it, his lawyer on Twitter starts quacking. So, I don't know how much I want to like poke that bear,
yeah.
um, but yeah, back to
Well,
Boston. So they initially wanted to create a load board, and they went to OIDA and Freightwaves to try and get some publicity on it. And OIDA told them to pound sand, and people at Freightwaves were like, "Well, okay, what you got?" And they had nothing. Like it was just an idea. They didn't have anything
yeah.
concrete. They didn't have any software, and so they didn't report on it. Well, they've been butt mad about that ever since. I come along. I'm working at Freightwaves, and Boston and I get into it on Twitter, and he's the kind of guy that he can dish it out, but as soon as you give him any kind of like gentle pushback, it's like, oh, people with big accounts are attacking me, and I don't have a big account. I'm nothing on Twitter, but he accused us of having followers that were posting photos of his kids on Twitter, and I was like, bull fucking shit. Like, tell me who those people are. Like, I need to know that. If a follower of mine is like threatening someone else's kids, like I'm a dad. I need to know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I went on a Twitter space. They host these like big Twitter spaces with the MAGA crowds, and I called them out. I was like, "Tell me these names. Tell me these accounts." Oh, well, they got deleted. It's like bullshit. Everything you post. I'm tagged in. Like I always
Right.
see it on my phone. If you report a post to Twitter, they send you an email with a chain of everything involved. Like he was full of shit. I called him full of shit to his face, and they've blocked me ever since. And maybe like once every 6 months, he spurgs out on a live stream about me and Freightwaves and Dooner and shit. So
So I had looked one time. Let me look now. Because I had looked him up on YouTube and they had these um marathon podcasts. Um Now it's showing me Michael Bolton. I don't need Michael Bolton. I need Michael
yeah,
Ball.
it's a shame that they're all in like trucking and shit because he's got a great voice, great accent, great energy. He needs to like have a radio show somewhere and talk about traffic for 6 hours. Like he would kill it, 100%.
There we go. Found it. Okay, here we go. He has 12 subscribers. Okay. And the entire show or the entire channel has 128 views. I mean, I think Blue Ribbon's got uh let's see, where's your viewer channel? We've got
Well,
10,000
it's kind of weird.
subscribers.
Like their main bread and butter is like on Twitter and Facebook. So if you're only looking at one of it's like this show. You guys are on TikTok, you're on Facebook, you're everywhere. You just got to find the right thing that they're tapped into. But then when they're on Twitter and they host these Twitter Spaces on there, they get hundreds of people listening live, like every day. But it's the same. I listen to some of these spaces, and it's the same. They've been circle jerking each other about 49 CFR for the last year and a half, and the record just keeps playing. They've done nothing.
Here's one thing that I guess I will recognize, okay, and take the Lamb, James Lamb.
Yeah.
Okay, the law is the law. Okay, there is government, there is a structure, there are departments. Okay, there are bills, there are houses of Congress, and right. The one thing that Lamb guy is really good at is playing that system.
Mhm.
Right? He's excellent at writing press releases and writing all this gobbledygook nonsense that looks legitimate to someone that doesn't know what a crookie is, right? You know what I mean? Like um it's bowing down before Caesar. Like it's your all of your hopes and dreams and aspirations are wrapped up in the empire. Like if this was Star Wars, you know, they're going to um they're going to the state because that's their church, like that's their religion, and that's why they keep barking this 49 CFR thing like it's the 10 freaking commandments, you know? Why won't somebody just follow the law? Because nobody cares.
They're being outcompeted. They're bad at running their businesses. They're being outcompeted, and
Mhm.
rather than fix it or learn how to be a better competitor, they want someone to rig the rules in their favor.
Right, exactly, 100%. Um, because they really don't want transparency, not to the true definition. Um,
Oh, and you see it all the time. You ask them, what's your running cost? What are you paying in fuel? What's how much did you?" As soon as you ask them their operating costs, they lock up because they don't want people to know. They don't want people to know how bad they are at running their business. And this is somebody that I don't own a business. I tell them all the time, look, I am just a company driver. You guys are 100% more of a driver than I ever am or will be. You took the risk, laid everything on the line, and it's not working out for you. And I feel for you. But at the end of the day, you're not guaranteed success in any of this stuff. And that's why I never wanted to take that risk on personally. But you have to figure that you have to figure out how to fix that yourself. You can't let somebody fix it for you.
I had kind of backed into our numbers, but probably middle of last year when the fuel was still pretty high, and we were at like a buck 53, including the driver. And yeah, our trucks are paid for. Um, we prioritize fuel mileage. Um, we run a very clean operation. But the fact that I could survive at $1.53 and you can't, not my problem, right?
Yeah.
If your cost of operation is $1 higher than mine, I hate that for you. But maybe you would think that someone would go, wow, their cost of operation is $1 less than mine. I wonder how they do that. Nope. Never, no introspection. No, I wonder if somebody does it better than me. And I wonder if I could learn from them. No, absolutely not. I need that. I need the government to go crush my competition and put them out of business. Well, doesn't that sound like the same people that you claim are hurting your business? That so rather you want the state to do to them or to do to you what's been it's just
And a lot of it too, like there are members within NOAA. Like I've talked to some, they're very reasonable. They run very well. Their operating costs are very low. And I tell them, I'm like, what is up with your other insane fellow travelers in this group? And they're like, I don't know, man. I've offered them my services. I said I'll audit your books for you. I'll hook you up with Kevin Rutherford. Like let's fix your business for you. And it's like nope, 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 nope.
yeah,
It's there's this meme that I love, and it's a guy holding a folder, and he's like, and it says I'm mad. And some guy gives him a folder, and he says, "Well, here's a solution." He goes, "I don't want a solution." Lights it on fire. He goes, "I want to be mad."
right, right. Absolutely. Well, and we saw that with the pandemic. It's like, I want to be scared and terrified all the time.
Yeah.
I
Oh
don't.
my god.
Yeah,
If you were a low status person, being able to walk around and bully people for not wearing a mask is like the greatest gift you've been given in your life. Because now you're a good person. You get to be
right.
better than any of all these other non-dirty what mask not non-mask wearing folks out
Yeah,
there. I fucking hated it.
yeah, yeah. I listen. I miss the traffic. I miss pandemic traffic. Pandemic traffic.
Everybody says that.
Okay,
Everybody says that.
that's the one thing I would take back.
My route was from Philly to Doylestown, PA, and back, and the trip up would be through evening rush hour traffic. So it's an hour and a half to get from South Philadelphia up to Doylestown. And the first trip up that I went during the lockdown, 36 minutes. It's like, oh
Nice.
my god, I want this pandemic to last forever. This is glorious.
And we all, especially like 9/11. Never forget. Y'all forgot. Okay, y'all completely forgot. But those of us that I ran 33 states throughout all that time. And I got to experience things that other people never would, right? And I remember when it first happened and they shut down, not only did they shut down the service plazas on the PA Turnpike,
Yeah,
they were blocking the exits where you couldn't even get to the parking. Well, that only lasted about 12 hours because all hell. broke loose at that point. And so they were like actually closed for like just a day or two, and they opened them back up. And I walk in there, and I swear to God, like March, maybe April 1st, and there's a woman wearing a full, like, doing body work respirator. And I'm like, holy shit, this is real. Like these people are they completely they're all in. And I
If you
w-
were right, if you were right on the edge of like schizophrenia, this just like tipped you right over that line.
oh yeah, yeah.
It,
I wish I would have taken more video, you know. I didn't, but because I just felt weird. But I wish I'd have been like one of the what's that World Star, the World Star videos, you know.
yeah,
I just wish I would have done more, because I delivered to little like ABC Supply and places like that. And I went to this one, it's little tiny town in Pennsylvania. You couldn't even get in a lot. You just had to pull over up to the sidewalk, and it had like one window. And I walked to the back, and normally somebody would walk up and like, here, where's your paperwork? And I hear this distant voice, and I turn around, and there's a dude. He's wearing white painter's coveralls, like like the paper. He's wearing white coveralls. He's got on like kitchen rubber gloves. He's got on a mask, goggles, and a face shield. And he yells at me from across the lot, "Leave the paperwork by the door." I'm like, all right, then.
you just lick it, slap it, and here you go.
Yeah, and so I just wrote, "Masked man refused to sign my paperwork," and scanned it, And that was so surreal. It was like, and then it got to the point where I had to remind myself that it was going on, because like our life and our family, like nothing changed, but I would have, oh yeah, I forgot. There's a global pandemic. Like it just, had to remind myself.
And
Uh,
it really depended on what state you're in. So like I was in Philly at the time, and of course Philly, like most major cities, was fully buying into it. My favorite game to play, like before like the mandates happened, when it was just like suggestions, like please wear a mask. I would be in a room and it'd be like five other guys with me, no mask, and somebody would walk in with a mask on, and they'd go, "Oh, we're cool, mask off."
mhm.
But the opposite happened too. You're in a room with five other people, and we've all got masks on, and somebody walks in without a mask. It's like, oh, we got to mask up. Okay, we are such social animals. I was like tickled. I mean, to me, it was just like a stupid game everybody was playing. But was eye opening to me was I went down to Florida right in the peak of COVID for a wedding, and a friend's wedding, and it was like a totally different country. Everybody down there was like, "COVID, what?" Like
Yeah,
we did it for like 2 days and nobody gave a shit. It's too fucking hot down here, so they stopped. And outside of Philadelphia, like when you get to New Jersey, it was like 50-50. I had what I called the Home Depot test. So if you're in a Home Depot in Philadelphia, everyone's wearing a mask. If you're at a Home Depot in Florida, what mask?
right.
New Jersey, 50-50.
Yeah. Yeah, it was I never wore one ever. I had a fake mask I kept in my pocket, just in case, and I had to pull it out, 3 or 4 times.
All the
But
masks were fake.
one one of my favorites was right when it first started. I don't even, and like I say, I don't think it was the mandate had happened yet. But I always stopped at the TA in Erie on my way back. I-90 exit 35, Harbor Creek. And so I walk inside, and they've got this poor girl sitting at a table just inside the door with a roll of blue paper towels, rubber bands, and a stapler. And she would staple rubber bands to one of these blue paper towels. And she's like, "Sir, you need a mask." And I'm like, "No." And I just kept on walking, and I went to
They
the
were
back.
making makeshift masks
They
with
were
paper
making
towel.
masks out of the blue shop towels. And she said something. I said, "Honey, if you think I'm putting that on my face, you've lost your ever loving mind. It's not happening. Okay. So just leave me alone. I'm gonna get my Dr. Pepper, and I'm gonna haul ass. Okay. But I'm there. I'm absolutely not." I had one customer in Fonda, New York, where they had a guy this dude didn't have anything better to do. He would sit and watch a security camera that overlooked the dock. And the dock was where it was like 55 feet inside the building. So I had to back my trailer in the building. And there was some dude from some other country, really sweet guy. And he was like, please mask, please. And he pointed at the camera and he goes, he yelled at me. He yelled at me. So I'm like, okay,
He's
so if
being
I
watched.
don't wear a mask, he's going to come out and yell at him. So I would always do this dance where I would get to the end of the trailer, and right before I turned the corner to be in the shot, I would turn my back and sidestep into the trailer. So all he could see was the back of my head. And when I got done, I would walk sideways out and then around the side. And the guy was kind of laughing, and I'm like, "Fuck him." Okay, no, I'm not. I'm not
That's
doing
what I mean. It's low status people that have been given an opportunity to show what a good little follower that they are, and you're the bad person for not following the rules.
it. Yeah,
I'm so glad that stuff is over. And there was a period of time in Philly where when they first lifted the mask mandates, everybody was like, "Oh, thank God it's over." And then the cases, went up a little bit, and they tried bringing it back, and that lasted less than 12 hours.
mhm,
Everybody was like, "We've done this for 2 fucking years now. We are done." Like there was going to be like new riots over this shit. And it's never been. Even I think maybe California this year or last year was like talking about bringing mask mandates, and even that was like
yeah,
squashed fairly quickly. We're living in too recent memory. Like people still remember what a pain in the ass it was and what little it accomplished. Now, say we have another pandemic 50 to 100 years from now, yeah, people are going to mask up again because they have no like long term memory of what it was like back then. Because I was sharing articles with people from like the 19 was it
18,
1905 or 19 whatever
19,
pandemic.
mhm,
And the mask mandates there ended because people were beating the shit out of the people that were enforcing the mask mandates.
yeah.
So if you're walking around San Francisco and some like tattle guy comes like, you need to wear a mask, just beat the fucking shit out of them. And then with that solved that within a day.
Oh, and maybe that's part of it. After having lived through this authoritarian hellscape, how on this side of that you're like, yes, we need more government intervention in the trucking industry. Like y'all lived through that, and now you want, and I went to the DM. I took my daughter to take her driver's test, and I made a little TikTok about it because the last time I had been in that building with her, she's 17, she was 3. We had just moved back from Ohio to West Virginia, and I had to update my CDL. And because I'm an idiot, I thought I have all my paperwork in order. Sure, I'll take this 3-year-old to the DMV with me. And of course, I had, you had to have the letter. This is 2010, a little bit different than it is now, but you had to have your background check letter. Well, hell, I had no idea where it was. So I called Charleston DMV and I'm like, hey, do y'all have a copy of this letter? And she was like, yeah, I'll fax it to you. Great. She faxes it to me. So I go in and I'm like, hey, here's all of my paperwork. And he goes, well, I have to send this to Charleston. And I'm like, well, if you look at that fax number, this literally just came from Charleston. She's like, well, I'm going to have to send it to Charleston. I'm like, why? She's like, well, terrorism. Fine. So I sit down in the chair with the 3-year-old, and up comes this 97-year-old woman. I mean, older than dirt, and her 75-year-old son. All right. Now, Mama is here to update her ID. Okay. She doesn't have a driver's license. She's never driven a car. She's never going to drive a car. All right. She needs her ID updated. But because of the Real ID Act of 2005,
Yep.
and West Virginia being the federal government's 35-year-old kid with a drug problem that won't move the hell out of the basement, they're the first ones to implement the rules of the Real ID Act of 2005. Well, that means that Mama, in order to update her ID, has to have any documentation of her name change.
Hmm.
Mama got married 75 years ago, right? Her husband's been dead for 25 years.
I'll go dig them up, find the wedding ring.
Right. Well, we can't update your ID because you don't have proper documentation of this name change. And I'm watching the 75-year-old son get more agitated and more pissed off by the minute. And he tries reason. He says, listen, brother, she's 97. Okay. She's not going to drive a car. She's not going to ride on an airplane. Okay. She needs this ID for when, like, she goes to the doctor, she goes to the pharmacy, right? She just let's just get her an ID. Well, Dudley Do Right is not having it, right?
Mm-mm.
He is going to enforce to the fullest extent of the law. I'm sure he probably slept in George W. Bush pajamas,
They self select for that at the DMV.
And the guy started getting shitty about it, right? Well, sir, I don't know why you have such a problem following the law. And I thought, I'm gonna watch a 75-year-old man get hauled out of here in handcuffs because he's about to whip this guy's ass. Finally, finally, by the grace of God, a supervisor shows up, heard the ruckus, walks over. Here's the situation. And he goes, brother, she's 97. Let it go. But the law and the policy and the federal government states, hey, let it go. She's 97. Stamp the paper. And finally, dude just takes the stamp out of his hand, stamps the paper, hands it back to Mama, and wishes her a good day. And I'm telling Kaylee this story on the way. I'm like, yeah, last time we were in here, I thought I was going to see an old man get his ass whipped, you know.
I had the displeasure of when I was trying to get my CDL to join Schneider. I was living in Florida. They wouldn't hire me, so I had to move to Indiana with some relatives and transfer my ID, my driver's license from Florida to Indiana. Indiana was one of the first states to implement Real ID. So I was
Ugh.
like, "What the hell?" Like they're like, "Yeah, you need your birth certificate, you need this, and 2 letters from your current address." And I was like, "I'm just living with my aunt and uncle to get my CDL, man. Like I don't have." So I had to transfer my cell phone service address from my house in Florida to my aunt and uncle's place in Indiana. And then fortunately, Wisconsin. So I get hired at Schneider, go through the training. I get my CDL in Wisconsin. Wisconsin wasn't a real ID state. So I don't know how these guys that get their CDLs are dealing with that bullshit right now with CDLs. I
Oh,
was very fortunate. So I went from Florida to Indiana, Wisconsin, back to Indiana again. And then when I moved to Florida, Florida had just started using Real ID. So I had to deal with that bullshit again. Then I moved to PA. When I moved to Pennsylvania, Philly, they didn't have Real ID yet, but it was coming. There was like billboards everywhere, like you're not going to be able to fly if you don't get this new Real
mhm.
ID system. And they finally changed that. And then when I moved to Jersey, same thing. They were like one of the last states to use Real ID, and I'm just like, it's like this government ghost that just keeps haunting me every
Yeah.
every state I move to.
Well, here's what's interesting about that. Okay. And if you remember, like anytime I hear somebody mention Jimmy Carter, it's always got this little bit of negative connotation to it because of inflation, right? Well, Jimmy Carter economy. But those of us that kind of pay attention to history know that started in 1973. That was Nixon. And it took years before it actually caught up and Jimmy Carter got blamed for it. Now, that doesn't mean that Jimmy Carter's a good guy. I'm just saying the problem generally doesn't show up for about a decade. I remember because I was a political junkie. Okay. 2000 to 2004. I was talk radio 12, 15, 16 hours a day. Right. I was all in the political landscape. And I remember, I think it was the 2004 Republican debate. Rudy Giuliani, one of his things was a national ID. Okay.
Mm,
They wanted terrorism, right? Well, what we need is the states don't need to be in charge of IDs. The federal government should be in charge of ID. Well, the either the Supreme Court or the people that knew how the Supreme Court was going to swing was like, they're never going to let that happen. There's no there's no constitutional power or authority for the federal government to um to issue IDs. That's a states' rights thing. Okay. So how did they fix it? They came up with the Real ID Act of 2005. They blackmailed all the states with federal highway money and education money. Oh, well, listen, I mean, well, y'all like to have all this money. We'd sure like to give it to you, but what you're gonna have to do is,
anytime they want to pass something, just hold the budgets hostage.
yep, and we'll just listen. We'll just hold this money right over here, and until y'all get in line, and you do what we want you to. Seatbelt laws. That's how they got all the seatbelt laws. Blackmail in the states. And so I kind of saw this coming down the tracks when we first got married in 2004, moved to Ohio in '07, and I dropped my wife off at the BMV and she comes out and she's like, they won't accept my marriage license. I'm like, what? It says the word greetings on it. Okay. Well, they say it's so we had to call the county where we were married in. They're like, oh yeah, we had to change all of our marriage license. So they reissued our marriage license, basically took the word greetings off of it. I'm sorry, guys. The historical context does not lend itself to getting me to go, yes, I join your um, I join your movement to get the federal government more involved in anything. Sorry, I'm not doing it. We can discuss the principles, I guess, of how carriers should behave and how brokers maybe should behave. I'll have that conversation with you. But the very minute that you go driving circles around the Capitol because you want to get no, answer's no, absolutely not. No way, shape, or form. I am getting involved in that. And I will fight you to the death. No, not doing it. So you
What
can make
so
me your enemy if you want to. I wish you the best of luck.
what is your opinion on like the Canadian protests? Because I was 100% behind them. I think people were because reading. I had friends that are there. My good friend Gordon McGill, he was on Tucker Carlson's podcast a couple weeks ago talking about the guys that are still locked up because of the
Oh yeah,
Canadian protests.
dude,
And
Canada was.
the support that they were getting from the not the media but the public in Canada was through
Yeah,
the roof because they were dealing with 10 times the level of bullshit that we were. Like
one
they
hundred
just
percent.
about had it enough. And I was blown away at how successful it was with just how few trucks. Like all these protests that we have here, all these Facebook groups, doesn't not doing shit. You get 50 guys with semi trucks and you just park them in the right spot, you've locked down everything. And nobody's figured that part out yet. I'm always stunned at just how stupid the bad guys are in this country. And we're very fortunate too, because if we had very smart criminals and very smart bad actors, they could do some really bad shit. Like this, all this talk about protesting freight into New York. Get 5 guys in a truck, block the block the George Washington Bridge, block the tunnels. There's your there's your protest right there.
Well, first of all, I think the difference is Canada and the U.S. are two wildly different countries. I mean, there's states that have more population than Canada, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the things that they were doing in Canada were really, really, really heinous. I
Yes.
mean, there was some really, really dark. I mean, pastors being arrested, barbecue restaurant owners being arrested, locked up. So I kind of have a hard time equating what the Freedom Convoy was doing with somebody throwing a fit about brokers. H- However, um, my issue, for example, okay, and it's the selective outrage when the Free Palestine protesters shut down the I-40 bridge at West Memphis. Everybody was losing their minds. How dare they? Those people ought to run over them, run over them. They ought to be locked up. Okay, they interrupted commerce. Okay, they blocked an ambulance. Right, there was somebody on an ambulance ride. Um, these of course they don't try that crap here, but the vegan protesters, especially, or just stop oil.
Yeah.
And you see them over in Europe just being dragged out of the road, and they'll go right back, and somebody will grab them by the hair and drag them out of the road. And people saying, "Please let me go to work. Please let me go to work. Please let me go to work." Then out of the other side of your mouth, well, I'll tell you what we ought to do. We ought to shut down highways. Okay, well, if those people are wrong, then why aren't you wrong?
Yeah,
You
I'm saying this like it's just as like a LARP. I am not in favor of blocking any highways. Whatever. I'm saying if I was going to do, if I was one of those guys inclined to do such a thing, that's the successful way of doing it. And we're lucky, we're fortunate that nobody is brave, bold, or stupid enough to do something like that right now.
Well,
For now.
there was one that happened. I don't know if it was related to the pandemic or what, but there was a Landstar driver that got her lease canceled because she participated in they shut down an interstate somewhere, and she had a big house, big red Peterbilt with a big long sleeper. And there she was, pulling a Landstar trailer. And Landstar was like, "That's sitting duck. You're out of here," and canceled her lease. I mean, it's not like they haven't tried it. They've done slow rolls, but to me, that is an act of aggression and violence. When um, the motoring public and people that aren't in trucking, punishing them because you don't like brokers. I can't get it. I can't join it. Um, and most of the time, this speed limiter thing, I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think they're going to try. They're going to try like hell. Um, but I've got so much more. I don't have any. My plate is full. I just don't have any more room on my plate. And I would just advise people, you're the hero of your situation.
Yep.
You're literally the only person on planet Earth that can do anything about your situation. That's it. Tom Segura,
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
comedian, Tom and Bert. Well, apparently Tom gave a motivational speech the other day because he's like, anytime I talk about a watch or a car, people are like, "You make me feel bad." And he was like, "Good. Maybe you should feel bad. Maybe because your mindset sucks and you're a loser." He went on this hilarious rant, but they had like motivational music playing behind it. Um, Listen, guys, I have done a lot of really stupid things in my life. And I try to remind my drivers, especially when I've got my foot, halfway up their ass, I've done this dumb stuff too. Okay. I've done it. But the only way to move forward is to learn from it and then don't do it again. But if if you will never, ever, ever accept responsibility for whatever the first decision was, there was a first decision where you made a turn on the road that got you right where you are today. And now the problem is happening. Maybe it's not even your fault. Not this one thing is directly your fault, but there was the decision that started you down this road. If you'll learn how to look back and say, "Oh, see, back there it is. If I wouldn't have made that turn, 3 months ago or 3 years ago, I wouldn't be in this steaming pile of dog shit that I'm in right now." But it's hard to do because or I almost said it, our society. This society is so bad about, "Oh, well, you poor thing, oh gosh, it wasn't your fault."
Don't
The
worry, someone will step in and rescue you.
Yeah, yeah, the psychos and the enablers and you know, I just don't. There's a lot of people that are. They tell me they're trucking advocates. I don't. I don't believe you. I don't believe when you say how much you want to help me. I think you want to help yourself. I think you wanting to grow your own um, uh, platform and power and prestige. I don't. I think you're using me. Uh, and no, I don't. No, thank you. I'll pass. So
Yeah, no, great. I mean, I wish I had more to say to that. And you see that everywhere now. All these little groups with their fiefdoms popping up, and within 6 months, people realize, oh, it's a grift. Oh, they're taking money. I wish people found out more quickly before lots more money was stolen.
yeah. Well, so are you coming to the truck show?
Oh yeah, I'll be at Matt's
Absolutely. Okay.
with my
So
please advise hat.
okay, when are you arriving?
Oh geez, what's the dates? I'm trying to.
Well, the Blue Ribbon Crew is going to be at Caesars Southern Indiana on Thursday night, hanging out in the casino for anybody that wants to drop by and hang out. And then Friday, we will be in the Pittsburgh Power booth in that general area. And Saturday, we will be in the Landstar booth all day. and then we have our company dinner on Saturday night at Caesars. So we're staying at Caesars because they just take really good care of us and we get a great deal. But we'll be Friday, Pittsburgh Power, MD alignment. Rocky will be there. He's going to be in the MD booth all weekend. But everybody's right there. OPS, Pittsburgh Power, Fast, Fleet Air Filter, MD. We're all kind of in that little, is that the West Wing or East Hall? Hell, I can't remember. Place is huge. If you've never been to the truck show, you owe it to yourself to go at least once.
Yeah, my first time going to Mats was last year, and it just blew all because it blew all my it exceeded all my expectations. I really didn't know what to expect. I'd been to a couple of Freightwaves live events, and they were like a tenth of the size of attendees. I've been to plenty of conventions in South Florida. I've been to Comic Con twice in San Diego, and Matt's is 100% the San Diego Comic Con of trucking. Like
Yeah.
it is insane the amount of
It's
people.
hard to wrap your mind around 1,000,000 square feet. Um,
Yeah,
it's just,
it
it's
just goes
insane.
forever. Goes
Yeah.
forever. But that's where I met. So I'd known a lot of these guys online for years, but that's where I met Gordon McGill, Michael Lombard, Reed Lostaloo. That's where Please Advise all came from. You're going to see all kinds of guys wearing Please Advise hats. That mess, by the way, that's my tribe. Those are my guys.
Um, yeah. So, obviously, being sponsored by Pittsburgh Power, um, we like to hang out there with Bruce and the guys. So, and Rocky said it is the West Wing. So that's where we're going to be. Um, and just, of course, we wanted to go out on Thursday just because the first couple times we never got to see the show,
Mm.
because we were kind of pigeonholed, in one area. So, we're trying to put some deals together, with some different providers to bring into the shop. Um, I'd love to get a axle surgeon, axle doctor deal going because there's no, I think the closest guy's like 150 miles away. So we're going to try to get some of those relationships built up. And, but I love the truck show. I mean, my feet don't love it after 3 days.
I saw
Uh,
Mr. King's reply in the chat. You got to stretch. So what I do is start now, right now. If you're going to go to a Mats, walk a mile a day minimum every single day. Do it for the next week, and
yeah.
then starting next week, walk 2 miles a day, and then 3 miles a day. Your feet will thank you by the time you get to Mats. I'm telling you, it's if you've never been, wear comfortable shoes, bring lots of water. You're going to be on your feet all day.
Yeah, that's not happening. That's gonna be a no for me, dog. I'll just have to deal with the pain. Now, of course, I have since I've started wrenching so much, I have found muscles that I didn't know existed. And they usually show up about 5:30 in the morning. They're like, "Hey, buddy, how you doing today?" Um, so, oh, Rocky said, "You want a United Axle franchise? Forget Axle Doctor." Okay, well, I'll look them up when we get there. Um, uh,
Yeah, my main mission at Mats now is so since I've left Freightways and struck out on my own, I am a freelance ghostwriter on social media. So I run brands social media accounts for them. So I'm hoping to find a lot more clients to work with there.
yeah, that sounds
So
interesting.
if you or anyone else out there that's got a company with a Twitter account or a Facebook group that you're not really doing anything with and you want to engage your audience directly, hit me up.
Okay. Well, what's the best way to reach you?
I'm on Twitter at Super Trucker. I made it as a joke years ago, and
Yeah.
I've never been able to live it down ever since. You can also find me on LinkedIn, probably Justin Martin. The problem with that is there's a million Justin Martins out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, your best option for reaching out to me is at Super Trucker on Twitter.
Okay. Well, we've hit the 2 hour mark, so that's in keeping. So we will be back with you next. Is that the 20? No, it's the first. It's a leap year. That February 29th keeps jacking me up.
Yep.
So we'll be back with you next Friday night, the March 1st. Larry will be back with us, and I can't wait to hear the stories about. I'd sent him a link to Motley Crue, Kickstart My Heart. I'm like, please have them when they restart you. You need to play this song. I mean, the atmosphere needs to be right. So I'm sure we'll get to hear the stories of Larry getting forced regen.
I love that joke. Forced regen.
So fitting. All right, y'all. Well, it will be it for tonight. We will holler at y'all next week.